Please continue.
Mr. Odikpo, I just wanted to go back about one thing from the 2004 application. Is it safe to say that that 2014 application just kind of fizzled out and didn't go anywhere, correct?
Yes.
There wasn't an outright denial, just kind of fizzled out and nothing ever happened with it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Going back to the 2015 application, I think we left off with you were running the background and you got you put in the social security number and date of birth. Is that correct?
Yes.
And from that, you got a DFCS history associated with Jennifer Rosenbaum. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, anyone who is who's ever been in DFCS custody has a DFCS history. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so, is it protocol for whenever there is a DFCS history that whatever it is, it has to be reviewed?
Yes.
Okay. And at any point, did you receive a call from Jennifer Rosenbaum?
Yes, I did.
Okay. At that point, had you had an opportunity to review any of the DFCS history?
No.
And when Ms. Rosenbaum called you, what did she say when she called you?
She wanted to know why it's taking long to send her letter to come to attend impact class.
Okay. And what was her demeanor on the phone with you?
It wasn't very nice.
And so you stated that she wasn't very nice, correct?
Yes.
Did you explain to her though that you were still in the process of reviewing the application?
Yes.
Okay. And what did she say to you?
She said that I don't know who she that I don't know who she is. She used to be at a friend's house. And I said, well, I need to review the case. I need to review the history before we can make any determination on this. And then she went ahead to tell me that she worked at the DA's office, that she knows everybody there. So I don't know who I am really dealing with. So when she finished, she hung up the phone.
So she hung up the phone on you?
Yes.
All right. The next time that you heard about Jennifer Rosenbaum, is it safe to say that the children were being placed with the Rosenbaums at that point?
Yes.
Did you approve that placement?
No.
And was it your job at the Henry County DFCS to approve the foster placement and fictive kin placements?
Yes, yeah.
Did did Jennifer and Joseph complete the requirements, and more specifically, I'm talking about that impact class that we talked about?
Not to my knowledge.
Did anyone else even teach that class besides you at that point?
In Henry County, I'm the only one that teaches the class.
And they did not attend that class, correct?
No.
And you said it was a 12-week class?
Yes.
All right. You would have remembered them, correct?
Yes.
All right. To your knowledge, the home study was not completed, correct?
No.
All right. Not one that at least came to your attention, correct?
No.
All right. So it's safe to say they didn't go through all the normal channels to get the kids placed in their home, correct?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Just briefly, Ms. Odikpo.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Corinne Mull. If I don't speak loud enough, let me know.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just a little confused. There were two applications, one in 2014,
Yes, ma'am.
where she was where she applied in her maiden name,
Yes, ma'am.
and one in 2015,
Yes, ma'am.
where it was both Joseph and her.
Yes, ma'am.
And in 2014 is the one where you checked and found out that she had been in foster care, correct?
Yes.
And that you needed to look into the foster care some more
Yes.
in 2014.
Yes, ma'am.
And it was in 2014 that she called you and said, what's going on? Why is it taking so long?
2015.
2015.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's your testimony here today that there was never a home study done on their house.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. And it's possible, isn't it, that you just wouldn't know about it if there was one?
Yes. I will know. If
You
there's-
would know?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. So if there is one and you don't know about it, what does that mean?
There's all the foster homes go through me.
Okay.
So I approve them and I monitor them.
Okay. And so you have not approved or monitored these folks?
No,
So somebody else in DFCS has been monitoring these folks, correct?
not to my knowledge.
Okay, so to your knowledge, they were not under DFCS supervision?
Your Honor, let me explain how this goes. If your home is approved as a foster home, you have a DFCS worker that comes to your home quarterly to make sure that your home is in good standing to continue to be a foster home. If the children are placed in your home as a foster parent, there have to be a case worker that comes to your home every month to monitor the kids.
Now, was there a caseworker going to their home?
Your Honor,
This is your honor is up front. I'm just Korean wrong.
sorry, Miss Karim. As at that time, I should believe there is a caseworker that's monitoring the kids. Because their home is not approved as a foster home, I am not aware of how they got the kids.
Okay. So, if there was a home study, you don't know about it, correct?
There's no home study.
Okay. If there was but if there was one, you don't know about it, correct?
I should know about it because
I understand you should know about it. We all understand that. But you don't know about it, correct?
I don't know. There's no home study.
Now, you were saying that in 2015, she called about why it was taking so long?
Yes.
But in 2015, you say that you did not, that application did not go forward, did it?
It went through, but we haven't reviewed the history.
Okay. So in 2014, you didn't review the fact that her foster care history, and 2015, you didn't review her foster care history.
Then we started the process, and then it fizzled out.
I just asked if you could answer yes or no and then explain to your heart's content, okay? 2014, it fizzled out, right?
Yes.
It was not denied, it just fizzled out.
Yes.
And she didn't call you, according to you.
Yes.
She called you in 2015.
Yes.
That's according to you.
Yes.
So we understand each other. And you're saying that she called you because it wasn't going fast.
Yes.
And your testimony here today is that application didn't go through either, 2015.
2015, the application is in the process of going through, but I don't know what happened. The next thing I had, they got the children. So I don't know.
Thank you.
Mr. Odikpo, is it safe to say that in 2015, the application didn't go through the normal process?
Yes, it didn't go through the normal process.
Okay. And if there was a home study, it did not come through you?
No.
Okay. And it should have, correct?
Yes.
Nothing further.
But isn't it true, Ms. Odikpo, that fictive kin are treated differently than regular foster parents?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Odikpo.
Anything else?
Not from the state.
Thank you. You accept that. Any objection to this witness being excused?
Not from the state.
From the defense? All right, she's excused. Okay, the state will call its next witness,
State will call Patricia Lambert.
Patricia Lambert.
If you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth and the whole truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Please lower your hand. If you could slide up to the mic a little bit. You can put your hand down. Please state and spell your first and last name.
Patricia Lambert, Patricia, Lambert, Lambert.
Good afternoon, Ms. Lambert. Ms. Lambert, are you a foster parent in Henry County?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long have you been a foster parent in Henry County?
Almost 10 years.
And did you go through the process of becoming a foster parent during 10 years ago?
Yes, ma'am.
And what classes, if any, did you have to take?
I have to go through 5 classes that we do every Saturday for 20 years.
If you can speak up a little bit.
We do have to go through a 5-hour class,
And do you recall the name of that class?
impact training.
And is there any other classes or training that you had to have to be a foster parent?
Oh, sure. You have to be consistent, periodically going for training.
And how often do you have to go in for training?
We have to present 15 hours per year.
And in July of 2015, did you have Millie Place and Layla Daniel placed in your home?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you recall who informed you that they would be placed in your home?
Ms. Chineze Odikpo.
And when they were placed in your home, did you pick them up or were they brought to you?
They were brought to me.
Do you recall who brought them to you?
I think it's Samantha White.
At the time that Millie Place and Layla Daniel are given to you, are you given any information in regards to their history or their background?
Not really.
Okay. Is that unusual for DFCS?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
And who was Samantha White at that time?
I think she was the acting caseworker on the case.
At any point, did you get, and who would you normally get the information, I guess, background information on the kids from? Where would that normally come from?
I would have to question, because a lot of time when the kids come into care, the caseworker does not know everything. So as you go along, you will try to find out.
And who would you ask questions to?
The caseworker.
Okay. And did you eventually get some information about Layla and Millie?
A little bit.
And the information that you had, why were Layla and Millie in care?
I was told that the mom was having some problems with drugs.
And do you recall how long did Layla and Millie stay in your home?
They were placed in my home on June 12th, and they were removed on July 24th.
Do you recall who the prior, where they were coming from? Were they coming from their biological parents? Were they coming from foster care or shelter? Did you know where they had been prior to coming into your home?
I was told they was placed in a foster home before.
Okay. And do you know who that foster home, or who ran that foster home? Whose foster home was it?
Well, the name that was given to me was Loretta Brown.
Okay. Did you know Loretta Brown at all?
No, ma'am.
Once the girls were placed in your home, did you have any contact or communication with Ms. Brown?
Twice.
And what was the reason for that communication? And let me ask you, how did y'all communicate? Was it in person, over the phone, text messages? How did that communication happen?
Over the phone.
Okay. And did you call her or did she call you?
She was just calling to check on the kids because they were moved from her home. She was just concerned.
And was she allowed to talk to the girls when she called on those 2 occasions?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And why not?
I guess defects had the reason.
Okay.
I didn't know why.
Were you informed whether or not Ms. Brown could have contact with the girls?
After 2 phone calls, it's my duty to report to the caseworker who is calling to talk to them. And once I reported that, they asked to cease communications, so I did.
And you did. Can you describe how, when Layla and Millie came into your home, do you have, I guess, a proper a procedure that you follow when you have kids placed in your home?
I mean, it depends on the age group.
Okay. How were Millie and Layla when they came in to your home?
Millie was 4 and Layla was 2.
Okay. And for kids that age, what would you do when they came into your home?
I mean, you let them be kids.
Okay.
I mean, you clear the room and make sure they have a place to play.
And did you do that for them?
Yes, ma'am.
What was their behavior like when they were staying with you?
Typical 2-year and 4-year-old.
Okay.
Play rough. You know, grab onto each other, fight for the toys. That's what the 2-year-old do.
When they would be playing rough and fighting over toys, did they ever get injured in any way?
No, ma'am.
Ever have any bruises or broken bones as a result of that playing rough?
No, ma'am.
During the time that the girls were with you, were you able to observe their eating habits?
Yes, ma'am.
And tell me about Millie. How was her eating habits?
She would eat, but not as much as Layla.
So how was Layla's eating habits?
A food junkie. She loves sweets.
So do I. If she was hungry, how would she tell you that she wanted something to eat?
She would say to me, Ma, eat. You know, she would do this to her mouth.
She would take her hand and put it up to your
Yes,
mouth, is what
yes,
you're
ma'am.
indicating?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know sign language at all?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Did you take that as being a form of sign language for the word eat?
Well, being a typical 2-year-old, they cannot speak properly. So you have to adapt.
During the time that Layla and Millie were in your home, did they ever go to daycare at all?
No, ma'am.
Who would care for them during the time they were with you?
I would.
When they came into your home, did you observe any bruises or injuries on them when they were placed with you on June 12th?
No, ma'am.
And did you have any issues in regards to Millie and telling lies?
Typical 4-year-old. They tell stories to get what they want. But I would not consider that a lie.
And were they receiving any type of counseling when they were in your home?
I do have one counselor came by to check on them both.
Do you recall what that counselor's name was?
Not exactly, but I did remember what I told her.
What did you tell that counselor?
I just let her know she was questioning the way they get along, the way they interact with each other. And I said, just let her know. Typical 2-year-old, you take her stuff, she would grab it from you. That's what kids do.
Did you tell that counselor that Layla would scratch or bite
Yes, I did.
when she got upset?
Yes, I did.
And when you was describing that, was that your way of describing this typical 2-year-old behavior?
Response?
I'll rephrase. When you were describing her biting and scratching when she would get upset, what type of behavior were you describing?
Just playful. I mean, she played with her sister.
And when Layla would bite and scratch, did she ever break the skin, cause enough damage where they would challenge to go to the doctor or the hospital?
No, ma'am.
And you said that the counselor came out. How many times to your home did she come out?
Probably once or twice.
Did you tell her anything about Millie?
Not really, no.
Did you do you recall speaking to her about Millie's maturity?
But yeah, in conversation, you
And
know.
what did you tell her about Millie's maturity?
Sometimes she act grown, you know, all grown up little girls like to do that.
And what did you mean by she acted grown?
You know, she would, if I could act it out, but she would like put her hands on her side and, you know, just do stuff like that. Just act like it.
Did you mean it in a negative way?
Oh no, never.
And what about Miss White? Did you have any communication with Miss White during the time that the girls were in your home?
Constantly.
Okay. And how would that communication occur? Was that in person or over the phone or something else?
Well, some in person, some over the phone.
Did she make, when it was in person, where would that be?
At my home or at the office.
About how many times did Miss White come to your home?
Not often.
Would it be more than once?
It's more than once.
More than 3 times?
Probably about 3.
And when Ms. White would come to your home, what would happen?
Well, I would discuss, as I'm telling you right now, I would discuss eating habits, the way they play, how rough they play. Just simple.
Would Ms. White do an examination of the girls when she came to visit?
No, ma'am, I would do it in front of her.
When you say you would do it, what do you mean?
In training, we was taught if you have children under the age of 5, whenever the caseworker come to visit, their job is to strip them down, make it they cannot talk for themselves, but to explain any injuries they might be having. So we would typically undress them from the diaper up, just so the caseworker could have a look to see if there is any bruises, any breaking of the skin or anything like that.
And was Ms. White doing her job in respect to that?
Not in my opinion.
When the girls were with you, did you have occasion to have to take them to the doctor or hospital or anything?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is the process in regards to doctor's visits?
Doctor visit, you have to have they give you a form to fill out. One of the main things you must have is a placement letter.
And did you have a placement letter for the girls?
Yes, ma'am.
And once you got that placement letter, what did you do with it?
Well, I keep it in a file. I start building a file from there.
Did you ever have to take them to the doctor?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall when it was and which girl you took to the doctor?
The first child I took to the doctor was Layla, and it was on June 13th.
And what was the reason for that you took Layla to the doctor on June the 13th?
I took her to the doctor because I received a call from Ms. Rosenbaum, who had taken them to spend a day with her, and she called and said that Layla started throwing up and she couldn't deal with it, so would I come back and get her? So I met her at the McDonald's right in Henry County here, Heritage Park. Take her and I brought her straight to the hospital because just receiving them the day before, didn't know anything about the history. I didn't know what it was. So to be safe, I took her to the emergency room.
So I want to make sure I understand you. So you received the girls on June the 12th? Mm-hmm. And when was this hospital visit?
June the 13th.
And you indicated Ms. Rosenbaum. Did you know Ms. Rosenbaum at that time?
No, ma'am.
What was the reason that Ms. Rosenbaum had Layla? Did she also have Millie as well?
She had them both, and I was told by the caseworker that she would be the permanent home for the girls. So she would be coming and take them to visit periodically.
And how did, on June the 13th, was there a visitation with Ms. Rosenbaum?
Yes, ma'am.
And how did that come about? How were you informed that there would be a visitation?
From Samantha White.
And you said that at some point you got a call from Ms. Rosenbaum.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you go pick up the children?
Yes, ma'am.
And where did you go at that point?
I took her straight to the emergency room.
And what happened when you got to the emergency room?
Well, the doctor that saw her said that she was...
Your Honor, I would object to what the doctor said. That's hearsay, and I believe the doctor's going to testify.
Well, Your Honor, she would have to give a history as for medical treatment that she was given. But I'll move
But
on.
this is what the doctor said to her, a sting injection.
I'll move on.
Okay.
Were you given anything? What happened during that doctor's visit? Not telling me what anybody said.
Okay, she had an examination done. The doctor prescribed that little tiny tablet, can't recall the name, asked me to, if she's continued to throw up, put half of it under her tongue, which is 2 milligrams, so she wouldn't, keep throwing up all the time.
And did you do that?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
Because being a 2-year-old, putting a tiny pill like that, she could swallow it, it could get stuck in her throat. So I just decided to buy her some Pedialyte and to help her from stopping throwing up.
When Layla was with you, did you ever have any issues with her, any medical concerns about her breathing, her holding her breath or gasping for air?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever have any issues with her breaking out in rashes or hives or anything like that?
No, ma'am.
Now, you said that she was having visitations with the Rosenbaums. Did she have visitation with anyone else during the time that she was with you?
Yes, ma'am.
And who was that?
Her great-grandmother, Miss Banks, Peggy Banks.
And how often would Miss Banks visit with them?
Well, she would probably have them one weekend and Jennifer would have them the other.
I'm sorry, you said she would have them one weekend and you kind of trailed off. Who would
I
have,
said Miss Rosenbaum would have them the other.
so they would alternate weekends?
Yes, ma'am.
And when they had them over, were these overnight stays or were they day visits?
No, ma'am, just day visits.
When the girls would come back from visiting with Miss Banks, what would you do?
Just look at the behavior.
And when you would look at them, what were you looking for?
Any signs of changes.
And did you see any signs of changes when they would come back from visiting with Miss Banks?
Well, Millie would come back with a little attitude, which just suggests children imitate what they see. So,
Yeah. Can you make sure you keep your voice up?
sorry. She would come back with a little attitude, and as I said, children imitate what they see.
And would you address that with Millie or with Miss Banks?
Both.
How did you address it?
But I would talk to Millie, and one of the words I often use, I would not tolerate any foolishness. And what I did, I would eventually meet Miss Banks in person, have a conversation with her to find out, what is she doing when the kids is over there.
And when you talked with Miss Banks, did the behavior stop?
He did.
And when Miss Banks would have her visitations, who would she be visiting with?
Sometimes she would bring, I think it's her sister with her, because she only used to be taking up Millie. And then, I just had a conversation. I said, listen, there's both of your grandkids. If you can't have one, you can't have the other. So she started taking both.
Did she give you any explanation as to why she was only getting Millie?
Yes, ma'am.
And what explanation did she give you?
Because of her condition, she was walking with a stick, so she couldn't manage both at the same time.
Did she ever tell you anything about not liking Layla?
Oh, never.
Did she tell you anything about Layla being a drug baby?
No.
And you said Millie would come back with a little attitude. Was there anything else that you would be looking for or checking for when the girls came back from visits with Miss Banks?
Obviously. Any bruises, any unusual marks she didn't live with?
And did you find any of those when she came back from her visits?
No, ma'am.
And you said that with the Rosenbaums, did you ever meet Joseph Rosenbaum?
Twice.
Okay. And where did you meet Mr. Rosenbaum?
At my home.
And did you have any conversation with him?
Just, yeah.
And what did you discuss with Joseph Rosenbaum?
One of the questions was asking him, are you ready for fatherhood? And he was saying, that he worked long hours, he comes home late. So most of the time, Miss Rosenbaum would be the one being with the kids.
And did you have a conversation with Ms. Rosenbaum about the girls at all?
Yeah, we talk as regular.
And what was your conversation with her about the girls when you would speak with her?
Well, since that she would be the one who would be caring for them permanently, one of the things I try to do is kind of really discuss, little behaviors, things that they like, things they would do. That's what was the main thing.
Did you ever have a conversation about her relationship with Tessa Daniel?
No, Mom, I didn't know who was Tessa.
Did you ever give Ms. Rosenbaum or tell her or Joseph Rosenbaum by any means any information about the girls' background with their biological parents?
That I would not know.
So would it be fair to say you didn't have any information to give?
Yes, ma'am. None at all.
Did you ever have any conversation with Jennifer Rosenbaum in regards to Peggy Banks?
Yes, we did, on many occasions.
And what did Jennifer Rosenbaum tell you about Peggy Banks?
She was one of the person who related to me that Miss Banks did not want to have anything to do with Layla.
That was told to you by Jennifer Rosenbaum.
Yes, ma'am.
What else did she tell you about Miss Banks?
She didn't like black people.
Excuse me, I cannot hear.
She did not like black people.
That Ms. Banks,
Yes.
And did she tell you where that information came from?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever address that with Miss Banks?
Sure I did.
What did you, how did you address it with Miss Banks?
I just met her one of the days when she came to pick me up. I let her know. I said, listen, I say, I do what I do because I love doing what I do. And I don't care if the child is green, pink, yellow, purple. I don't see color. I'm here to help.
And what was Miss Banks' response?
She was very remorseful. She said to me that she never, ever, ever mentioned anything like that to Jennifer.
And you said that, was there any other visits after that June 13th visit with the Rosenbaums?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did that next visit occur?
Probably like the following week.
Let me ask you something. When a kid comes into your home, do you do anything to memorialize it or document it?
Oh, sure.
What do you do?
Well, first of all, the placement letter is the first thing placed in the file. Anything after that, any bruises, doctor visits, anything. Make 2 copies, one for the caseworker and one to keep in my personal file.
And I'm going to show you what's been marked as States 118 and previously shown to Defense Counsel. Do you recognize States Exhibit 118?
Yes, ma'am.
And how are you able to recognize it?
That's my handwriting.
And where is that from?
That's from my home. That notes that a document while Layla and Millie was in my home.
Have you had an opportunity to look over that States Exhibit number 118?
Yes, ma'am.
Have there been any additions or deletions made to it?
No, ma'am.
The state would ask the States Exhibit 118 be entered into evidence.
Admitted.
Would that assist you in regards to dates when the girls were having visitations with the Rosenbaums?
Yeah, well, I don't need it.
Okay. I'll leave it there just in case. When was the next visit after June the 13th that the girls had a visit?
It's been weekly after that, every weekend.
And what date would that have been, the next visit?
Probably like a week prior.
So if it was the 13th, it was a week later?
Yes, ma'am.
Would, if you can look, did you date that at all in your journal?
I didn't date the every weekend dates. What I do date is when stuff's that happened.
Or when there was stuff that was happening?
Yes, ma'am.
You would document it?
Yes, ma'am.
Was there anything that occurred after that second visit with the Rosenbaums?
Yes, ma'am.
What occurred?
Layla came back to the house with a bruise under her eyes.
And what did you do when you observed that bruise?
I questioned Ms. Rosenbaum about it.
And what was her response?
She said that Layla was playing in a park, a waterfall, and she took a toy from another child, and the child hit her with it.
What did you do after getting that information from Ms. Rosenbaum?
I let it be, because stuff happens when kids play.
Did you notate that in your journal?
Not at that time.
Okay. And in regards to Layla's eye, did you do anything?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you do?
I would put an ointment to show everyone know, A&D ointment, to heal the little scar that was under there.
And did it heal that scar?
Yes, ma'am.
And then when was the next visit that the Rosenbaums had with the girls?
Next weekend.
And when the girls came back, what did you do, if anything?
As usual, do the same thing. Look for any marks, any unusual bruises. I just do it all the time.
And at that time, did you observe any bruises or marks?
Not at the second time, no.
Not on that visit.
Not on that visit.
Okay. That mark that you talked about that was under Layla's eye after that second visit, was it still present when they came back that following week?
Still present, but look a little better.
And then the next visit that they had with the Rosenbaums, do you recall when that was?
Yes, ma'am.
When was that?
Following week.
And did you continue with the same process and routine that you normally did?
Yes, ma'am.
And when they came back that following week, did you have any concerns?
Yes, ma'am.
And what were those concerns?
The concerns this time was with both kids.
Okay.
The bruises was actually back, but very irritated. It was fresh and red.
Did you discuss that? And when you got the kids back, who would drop them off?
Miss Rosenbaum?
Did you talk to Ms. Rosenbaum about the injuries that you saw after this third visit?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did she tell you, if anything?
She said if defects think that they would place kids in my home and do not get any bruises, then they have another thing coming.
Ms. Shea was involved in 6 exhibits, 119, 120, and 121. If you could look at states 119, 120, and 121, do you recognize those?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you know, are those photographs of the girls?
Yes, ma'am, they are.
Did you take those photographs?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Where were those photographs taken?
At the defects office?
Do they depict what you observed when the girls came back from being on a visit with the Rosenbaums?
Yes.
I'd ask the states 119, 120, and 121 be admitted into evidence. If I could get the lights.
Yes.
And showing you what's marked as State's Exhibit 121, and there should be the corner up here. Can you tell us what we're looking at in State's Exhibit 121?
The bruise of
If you can point it out where you observed the bruise. And watch your step, please. Okay. And State's number 120. Which one of the girls are we looking at in States 121 and 120?
This is Millie's leg.
Okay. And if you can keep your voice up.
Millie's leg.
Where do you see a bruise at on those photographs? And when you say right here, what part of the body is that?
It's on the leg. I help here, right? I'm one of them, close to the knee area.
And States number 119, who's that we're looking at?
That's Layla,
And where is the bruise that you observed on Layla?
right here.
Okay. And that's different from the bruise from the previous visit?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Besides Ms. Rosenbaum indicating that if defects didn't expect for her to have kids and they come back with bruises, did she give you any explanation as to how those injuries occurred?
Well, excuse was they always playing, so that's the only thing I would hear from her.
Did the girls continue to have visitations with the Rosenbaums?
Yes, ma'am.
In regards to these bruises, those photographs, you said they were taken at defects?
Yes, ma'am.
Who took those photographs?
A caseworker by the name of Mietta Macedon,
And how did Miss Mietta Macedon come to take photographs of those injuries?
because I brought them in there.
Why did you take the girls into defects? Oh, I'm sorry, the lights can be turned on.
It's defects policy that if a child get any bruises, whether in your home or with someone else, defects has to know.
So let me ask you, if a child fell down some stairs, is that something that you should be reporting to defects?
Sure.
If a child fell off a ladder, is that something you should report to defects?
Most definitely.
If a child fell off a bike, is that something you should be reporting to defects?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me ask you, in regards to the defects policy, what's their policy as far as discipline?
We do know we cannot touch. We cannot touch them, period. Now, a timeout will be fine.
after going to DFCS, what did you tell DFCS? Was it Miss Warner that you spoke to, or Miss Macedon?
I spoke to Miss Macedon. She was the only one I could get at the time.
Did you try to reach anyone else?
I did.
Who did you try to reach?
I tried to reach both the caseworker and her supervisor, which is Miss Warner.
Okay. And the caseworker was who?
Samantha White?
Were you able to reach Miss White at all?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Were you able to reach Miss Warner?
No, ma'am.
When you weren't able to reach them, what did you do?
I show up at the office.
And is that when you talked with Miss Macedon?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you tell Miss Macedon at that time?
I let her know this is an ongoing thing that's been happening, so somebody need to do something. Take some pictures and try to get it investigated.
Did you have any concerns about the girls coming back with injuries?
That's why I took them to the office, because of my concerns.
What was your concern?
To me, if you have taken a class in training, you would definitely know that having a child in your home that does not belong to you, you gotta have eyes all around your head and the back, sides, everywhere, because they're little kids and they get into stuff very easily.
Did you ever tell anyone that you thought that the Rosenbaums were abusing the girls?
No, that's not my place to say.
Did the visits continue after your visit with Miss Macedon at DFCS?
Yes, ma'am.
When was the next visit that the girls had with the Rosenbaum?
Following week again, it continues.
So at this time, is Miss Peggy Banks having visitations with the girls?
Limited, very limited.
And when would that occur if it wasn't on the weekends?
Probably she would just take them during for a day, but not on the weekends anymore.
And when they would come back from those day visits, did you notice any of these bruises or injuries or notated anywhere in your journal?
No, ma'am.
At any point, did Miss White come out to your home?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall what day that was?
Can't recall what day, but I remember what the conversation was.
What do you recall that conversation being?
The conversation was that the kids went for a weekend visit and Layla came back with 3 distinct marks inside of her arm, and that bothers me a lot. So I asked Miss White to get her to the house immediately.
You asked her to come to your house immediately?
Yes, ma'am.
And did she in fact come?
Yes, she did.
And what happened when Miss White came to your home?
Well, I discussed that with her, with the marks in her arms. I also discussed all the excess bruises that had been happening before that, and she assured me that the visit would stop.
The visits with who would stop?
The visit with Miss Rosenbaum will stop.
And I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 122. Do you recognize that?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is that?
That's more like water plugs, if you know what.
Is it a photograph?
Water,
Who's it a photograph of?
that's Layla's palm.
Okay. I'd ask the State's Exhibit 122 be admitted into evidence.
No objection.
Admitted.
And I close the corner. Can you show us what you were describing or talking about in State's Exhibit 122?
I don't know if you can see, but this is one of the map. You can see like all that area. Never the fingers, but it's all in the palm. And here, right here, and these are the
And make sure you keep your voice up. You can have a seat. What did those marks look like that were in Layla's palm?
that looked like a like a fork that you eat with, was sticking in hands like this.
Did you discuss that with Ms. Rosenbaum, that injury that you saw to Layla's palm? And the lights can go back on.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And what did she say to you, if anything?
At this time, she didn't give me an answer.
She didn't give you an answer?
No, ma'am.
You said you spoke with Ms. White and she indicated that the visits would stop.
Yes, ma'am.
Did the visits stop at that point?
Instead, what happened, the kids has been removed from my home the following week.
In between the time that You observed that photograph and called Ms. White in July 24th. Were there ever any visitations with the Rosenbaums?
No, no, ma'am.
Do you recall the Rosenbaums giving a party for Layla at all?
If they did it at their home. Not that I know of.
Okay. And you said on July 24th, that's when the girls were removed.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any more communication at all with the girls once they were removed from your home?
Once the girl was removed from my home, the only time that I did see Millie, it was at a Walmart. And that's was like 2 months after.
I'm going to back up just a little bit. When the girls were removed from your home on July the 24th, what did you do, if anything?
I asked the judge to send me a letter stating why he's removing them.
Why did you want a letter from the judge stating why the girls were being removed?
Well, I mean, after all that I've reported, I needed to know why they were moving them.
At the time that the girls were removed from your home, was that mark still in Layla's palm?
Yes, ma'am.
Did they have any other injuries on them when they were removed on July 24th?
No, ma'am. And one of the things that I do as a foster parent, anytime a child been removed from my home, I would have the caseworker present and I would have the child stripped to make sure that they're living without any marks, period.
And did you do that with
Yes, ma'am.
Millie and Layla?
Yes, ma'am, in the presence of Mr. and Mistress Rosenbaum and the caseworker.
And were there any marks? Two or 3 months later?
Well, not them both, just one.
Okay, and where was that?
At a Walmart.
And who did you see? Which one of the
Millie.
girls? Millie. And who was Millie with?
Miss Rosenbaum.
And how did Millie look when you saw her?
I so happened to just step in the door, and I see these two little hands running, wide open and running, and she just jumped on me. When she jumped on me, I just put my arms around her, and she took her face and she buried it into my neck. And she had like 2 or 3 layers of clothes on, and it was hot. Or she looked pale, or her eyes was dark, and I said, "Are you okay? What happened?" And she would just stare at me, and her eyes would fill up with water. And Miss Jennifer started walking towards me, and she would just look at me, didn't say anything.
Did you talk to Jennifer Rosenbaum that day?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you say to her?
I asked her, what's going on with Millie? And she said, well, she is sick. So I said, well, if she is sick, why are you not taking her to a doctor? She said, well, I'll just come and get some medication here at Walmart. And in the moment talking about that, she changed the conversation to them going on a vacation. And that was it.
That was the end of that conversation.
Yes, ma'am.
When was the next time that you saw them, if you did?
Never.
Okay. At some point, were you informed about the death of Layla?
Yes, ma'am.
How were you informed?
By a caseworker.
When you got that information, what, if anything, did you do? I don't know. Did you go to the services for Layla?
No, ma'am.
Did you see Layla after she passed?
Yes, ma'am.
And when was that?
I went to view her body at the funeral home.
And when you viewed Layla's body, did she appear to look the same as she did when she left her home on July 24th?
She is a completely different baby in that box.
What was completely different about her?
Everything.
If you can describe it. for me.
Skinny, barely have any hair. She looked like a baby that's in the womb. Like when you do an ultrasound, she just like a little frail little baby.
Did you ever see Millie again after Layla died?
I did see her defuse on the body.
Did Millie ever come back to your home after Layla died?
Yes, ma'am.
When was that?
She came back the day after the death, like one day after.
What happened when Millie came back to your house after Layla died?
Well, I got a call from a caseworker asking that Millie been placed back in my home because I was somebody that she's familiar with, so they just wanted to be back with me. But when I went to the office to pick her up, her back was so covered in black and blue bruises, I took her straight to the doctor's office.
Which doctor did you take her to?
She goes to a doctor in Stockbridge.
Do you recall that doctor's name?
No, ma'am, but he should be in a medical files. But that's the doctor, the pediatrician, they take them both to.
And I'm showing you what's been already introduced into evidence, states number 80. Are those the bruises that you were speaking of on Millie?
Yes, ma'am.
And why did you take Millie to the doctor?
Like I normally do. If there is something unusual on the skin, one of the first things you do, have the doctor examine them first.
Did you ask Millie how those bruises occurred?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did she tell you?
She said that Mr. Rosenbaum beat her on the back.
Did she tell you anything else about those bruises on her?
And I mean, in a situation like that, and being a mom, there was so much you could question a baby. So I didn't put any pressure.
Did you ever talk to Millie about what happened to Layla while she was in the home with the Rosenbaums?
You didn't have to ask her. She would just tell you.
Did she tell you anything about how Layla was treated when she was there with the defendants?
Well, one of the things Millie always do when she come from by Jennifer, she would put on this act. She would have a belt, and she would, act like a junk man, just doing this, like, so what are you doing? She'd say, I'm being Miss Jennifer. I'm junk. See, so that's, and then she said, well, Miss Jennifer drink, she would pull Layla down the stairs by her arm.
Did she tell you anything else that Jennifer Rosenbaum or Joseph Rosenbaum would do to Layla?
No, I didn't want to be the one to pry asking her. I wanted her to talk herself.
So did you ask her any more questions?
No, ma'am.
Well, I said more. Did you ever ask her a question to get that information?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
After Millie told you about those incidents, what did you do?
What could I do than to just, just comfort her?
Did you ever tell anyone about what Millie had told you about what happened with her in the Rosenbaum's house and what happened with Layla?
No, the only person I really talked to was the detective.
How did you end up talking to the detective?
They came to my house.
Let me ask you, did you ever inform DFCS of what Millie had said to you?
I did let Miss White know.
Was it Miss White that you told, are you sure?
Actually, I spoke to Miss Charles first, which is the administrator.
No. Do you recall when it was that the detective came out to your house?
They came out, well, actually, the first person that came is Miss King. She came the day after I got received the news. And then, like, the day after that, we have 3 detectives, 2 male and a female. And then, like, a week after, I have 2 more come out. And I was just taking the notes and just questioning Millie.
Okay. And I just want to back up just a little bit. How long after Layla's death was it that Millie came to stay with you?
Probably like 2-3 weeks.
Do you know where
Probably.
Millie was in between the time that Layla died and coming to your home?
No, ma'am. I picked her up at the DFCS office, so I didn't know.
And how long after she came to your home did she tell you about being beat by Joseph Rosenbaum and Layla being dragged down the stairs by Jennifer Rosenbaum?
The same day.
The same day. Had she had any visits or conversations to your knowledge, well, while at your house, with any of her family members?
She did.
And did you have the opportunity to hear those conversations?
I do, listening.
Did you hear anyone tell Millie those things
No,
that she
ma'am.
said to you?
No, ma'am.
Who was it that she was talking with when she was in your home?
Her mom.
What about Miss Peggy Banks?
She do talk to Miss Banks too.
Did you ever hear Miss Peggy Banks tell Millie certain things to say about what happened to her in the Rosenbaum's home?
No, ma'am.
And you said the detectives came out to your house.
Yes, ma'am.
When they came out to your house, did they speak to you?
Yes, they did.
Did they speak to Millie?
Yes, they did.
And do you remember when that was?
It was like 2 weeks after death, within that time frame.
Were you present during the time that they were speaking with Millie?
No, ma'am. I would walk away so she could be comfortable. So I just let them talk.
Did you hear anything that Millie was saying to the detectives?
No, I just give them their own little time.
Is there anyone else that lives in your home with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, who else lives in your home?
My husband and my 4 kids.
And is one of your kids Kaya Lambert?
Yes, ma'am.
And did Kaya talk with Millie?
All the time.
And to your knowledge, did Millie tell Kaya anything about what happened to her?
She did.
And was Kaya present when the detectives came to talk to Millie?
That's the only how Millie gonna talk to the detective. The Kai has to sit beside her.
And did that happen when the detectives were there?
Yes, ma'am.
During the time that Millie was in your home, did she see a counselor or have counseling?
One time.
Do you remember who that was?
No, ma'am. As a lady, but I can't remember her name.
Did that counseling happen at your house or somewhere else?
Not at my house.
And did Millie still have a caseworker at this time?
Actually, no, because so many people was involved at that time. She did not have a specific caseworker.
Do you recall someone by the name of Brandy Willis?
Yes, ma'am.
And who is Brandy Willis?
She is the one took up after Samantha White left.
And did Miss Willis make any visits to your home?
Yes, ma'am.
About how many?
I mean, she do she usual visit. They have to come out once a month. Mm-hmm.
And when she would come to your home, what would happen during those visits?
You know, just talk about what Millie is telling me after her sister died and how she would be calling for her sister every night. So, and I would just explain to her how I would comfort her and let her know that the sister is in heaven looking at her. So just be happy for her.
Did you notice any behavioral changes in Millie when she came back to your house after being with the Rosenbaums?
Millie was more sad than anything else. She don't have time to act
No, I
out.
object to her putting words in Millie's mouth. It's hearsay whether she has time or not. That's,
Is this demeanor?
Yes, I asked her, did she notice any changes in Millie's behavior when she returned to her house?
Overruled.
You can answer.
No, I was saying Millie was always sad. All she asked for is a sister.
Was there anyone else, you said the counselor came out, was there any visits with family during the time that Millie was back in your home?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was visiting?
Her mom
Okay. And where would those visits take place?
at the DFCS office.
Would you be present for those visits?
No, ma'am.
To your knowledge, were those visits supervised or unsupervised?
Any visit that takes place at the DFCS office have to be supervised.
When Millie was at home with you, would she, what about Miss Peggy Banks? Would she have any visits with Millie during this time that she was in your home?
If she does, it will be at the DFCS office.
What about during the time Millie was at your home, would she ever talk to any of her family members while she was with you?
After the death, yes.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And what family members was she talking to?
She would talk to Miss Banks, her mom, and I think it's her stepdad.
And where would those phone conversations, how would those phone conversations take place?
Well, what I do, knowing me, I always keep a chart. I would document time of call, who called. I would sit right there and listen to the conversation.
And you would listen to the conversation?
Yes, ma'am. Put it on speaker.
When those calls were on speakerphone call, did they ever discuss Layla and Layla's death?
Yeah, they did.
Did you ever hear anyone make suggestions to Millie about what happened when she and Layla were living with the defendants?
No, ma'am, never, not once.
How long did Millie stay in your home after coming back after November the 17th of 2015?
Probably like a month, or probably less.
And at some point, did she leave your home?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did she end up leaving your home?
Well, they said they was transferring her to Clayton County.
During that period of time, did you make any complaints to DFCS about family members or interference in your home while Millie was there for that period of time?
Well, one of the things I was concerned about is that while speaking to her mom, I guess her mom wanted her to have a cell phone. And in my home, we don't allow young kids like that to have independent phones. So that was my concern.
During that month's period of time that Millie was with you, did you ever take her to the doctor's office?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was that? Why did you take her to the doctor's office?
I took her to the doctor's office because of that same bruises on her back. And I wanted the doctor to make an observation and have him give me back something, stating what he saw.
Was there ever a time that you had some concerns about Millie's eyes?
She had some allergies.
And tell me about what was going on regarding her allergies.
When the allergies started bothering her, she would take her hands and she would, rub, rough. And being here so soft, it get kind of dark. So that's what created the darkness under her eyes. So.
Did you discuss that, the darkness under her eyes, with anyone, DFCS or a doctor or anyone?
I did discuss it with DFCS.
And what happened in regards to Millie having that darkness under her eyes?
Well, around like 10:30 at night, what do they call it? CPS investigator showed up at my home, and she said that the mom had made a complaint that Millie had black eyes. So one of the things they wanted to do was to take her to the Eggleston, which they did. And they brought her back like around 3 in the morning, and all the finding was just allergies. There was no punch, there was no bruises, nothing.
How much time passed between that issue where she had to go to the doctors at, I'm assuming at 10:30 at night, and Millie being removed from your home?
She'd been removed probably like a day or two after.
How did you feel about that whole situation?
It hurts that the mom accused, but me being a mom myself, I would understand. She just had a baby die, any little thing would freak her out. So I would understand. I didn't hold her accountable for doing that.
Nothing further at this time.
Good afternoon, Ms. Lambert. My name is Corinne Mull.
Good afternoon.
I've got some questions to ask you. First of all, have you watched any of the coverage on TV?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you haven't watched any of what's been going on in this courtroom for the past week?
No, ma'am.
You haven't watched any television about news reports?
I watch television, but not about that news report.
So what did you do when that came on the news?
I did not see that on the news.
You didn't see it on the news?
I did not see it.
But you watched the news?
Of course I did.
You read papers?
No, ma'am.
I'd like to... Now, the exhibit that the state showed you,
It's on the front.
so just to be clear, let me ask you to take a look at make sure that I'm talking about the same thing. Is this your first notations about when the children came to your custody?
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes,
that-
ma'am.
June 11th, 2015.
June 12th.
June 12th. Okay, so when it says June 11th up there, that's wrong. Is this your writing?
That's my writing.
Okay, did you write June 11th?
I did write June 11th, but when the caseworker give you a letter, that's the date they wrote the letter.
Okay, so
June 12th.
here is not accurate.
This is accurate. The letter that they received from the caseworker, they made it out on June 12th.
Okay, but I am
So,
asking you, did, on June 11th, 2015, did the caseworker, Miss Samantha White, place kids in my home? Did that occur?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, it did.
On June 11th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, you went from June 11th, and the next time she took them was 6/13, is that correct?
June 13th.
June 13th?
That's when Miss Rosenbaum took them for the first time.
Okay. And you said there that she came back with scratches and pinches on her left leg and a large bruise under her eye, correct?
Yes, it
And you
did.
say, I took her to, and that would be the next page, right? I took her to, did you write where you took her to?
You was the one asking the questions.
Yes, and I did ask you a question.
Repeat it.
Did you take her anywhere?
Took her to the emergency room on June 13th.
June 13th, you took her to the emergency room. What emergency room did you take her to? What hospital?
Children Health Care.
Choa. So she went to
Stockbridge.
Stockbridge? Choa at Stockbridge? And when did you take her? If Miss Jennifer took the girls on Saturday the 13th, when did you take the children to the hospital?
Jennifer took the children June 13th. Leila got sick. She called me within an hour or half an hour and said that she was throwing up. She couldn't deal with it. What I did do, took her to the emergency room the same day. Not knowing the history, that was the right thing to do because I didn't know what was causing the vomiting.
They said it was a viral, correct? The vomiting.
Objection, Your Honor, calls for hearsay.
You have the file.
It doesn't call for hearsay. I'm asking her present intention, her known, excuse me, ma'am. I will rephrase. June 13th, you got some pills, you didn't use them, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What were the pills given to you for?
It was given to me to place under her tongue.
Okay. Now, the next thing you write about in your journal is Saturday, and if you take a look and confirm with me, Saturday, the what? What do you have written there?
Where?
Again, on Saturday.
Okay, I see right there.
And
Right
what
here?
does that say? Yes.
Right here.
Yes.
Okay, so that happened the weekend, the following weekend, was Saturday and Sunday, there's an Sunday and Saturday.
Okay, and what date is it that you take that? What does 20921 stand for?
This right here, 20th, 21st.
20th, 21st of September. What's the 9 for?
Where is the 9?
In the middle, between 20 and 21. What is it?
That's N.
And 20th and 21st.
Yes,
So 20th, 21st of June.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And she picked them up again, and they came back with bruises on her right ankle and a bruise on her knee. Layla had scratches and pinch on her left leg and a large bruise under her eyes. I took her to, where did you take her to?
The DFCS office.
Okay,
I can explain myself.
certainly.
The way this is documented, this only document as stuff occurred. So if you're looking for a pardon for every single time, I only document when stuff occurred.
Okay, I
To be clear.
understand that. Now, when you finish writing on June 11th, can you go to the next page? I'm asking you, do you write on the back of the pages or do you go to the next page?
Ma'am, when I'm documenting, I write what's available at the time incident occurred.
Okay, so let's take a look at from June 13th. The next day we have is June 21, correct? If we're going in order of time, the next time is June 21.
Yes, ma'am?
And then you squeezed into here June 28th, right?
Yes, ma'am.
On top of the June 21.
That's in the end, that's in the middle.
And the next page of Exhibit 118 is Jennifer picking them up on June 27th, correct?
That's what's there.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Both.
And you talk on June 27th all the way through the page, and then you turn the page and you continue to write, correct? And we went on to 7/9/15, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
June 28th is stuck here behind June 21, correct? Did you write that after June 28th?
I will repeat myself. I write the incidents as it occurred.
So
So I don't have a pattern going like dates, dates, dates. If it occurred on a certain date, I will just get the paper, write it down.
So you, on June 28th, you got the paper where you wrote June 21st, and you wrote in front of June 21st, you wrote June 28th.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you have had occasion to talk to the police,
Yes, ma'am.
and you told the police everything you told us here, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
In fact, the police came out to your house, correct, on December 2nd, 2015.
Possibility?
And you told him on December 2nd, 2015, everything there was to know,
What I could remember?
what you could remember.
Yes, ma'am.
And you never told the detective
that Joseph Rosenbaum kicked or beat Millie, did you?
I never ever once used the word kicked.
Beat.
Yes,
Okay, you didn't tell the police that, did you?
they didn't ask that.
Okay, they
I
didn't
only
ask
answer
that.
what they ask.
Okay. But it's fair to say you didn't volunteer to them that Millie, excuse me, let me finish my question. When Millie Place came to you, she told you that Joseph Rosenbaum beat her hip bone area,
Not a hip bone, her back.
her back. You didn't tell that to the police.
As I said, they didn't ask.
Okay, but my question is not whether they asked or not. My question is, did you tell?
It wasn't my job to tell if they didn't ask.
My question is, did you tell them that Millie
No.
had said that?
No.
Now, you have said that you documented and took pictures, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, where are the pictures of you, of the girls, when they were in your house?
You would ask to one of the detectives that I had a video camera. They took that away from me, never see it again.
Okay, so there should be video.
Well, not video. I used a video camera to take a picture of her back.
Okay,
That's
so
what I did.
that should be with the detectives.
Should be.
Okay. Now, otherwise, these folks don't have any of your pictures, do they?
I wouldn't know that, ma'am.
You don't know.
No, ma'am.
Now, isn't it true that basically when the day that you were accused of a black eye on Millie, that night you told DFCS she can stay the night, but she has to leave the next day?
I don't know where you get that information from, ma'am.
I'm asking you, did you
No,
say that?
ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay. You did not talk to Brandy Willis or Lakedra Billingsley and tell them that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you said on June 21st the children had bruises, but isn't it true the Rosenbaums didn't have the children on the 21st?
I cannot recall the date, but one thing I'm sure of, that they came with bruises.
On one occasion.
More than one occasions.
Now, you bought children jelly sandals, didn't you?
Pardon me?
Jelly sandals. You brought the children some sandals, didn't you?
No, ma'am.
You didn't buy them any sandals?
No, ma'am.
Okay. They came with sandals
When?
when they came to your house the first time?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So no jelly sandals at all?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you say Samantha White came out 3 times.
That's about right.
And you had the girls, when you had both girls, you had the girls for a period of 30 days. Is that correct?
That's about right.
Okay, so Samantha White came to your house 3 times in 30 days,
Yes,
correct?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And you feel that that was not doing her job, right?
The reason why Samantha White came to the house, because when the bruises occur and you make a report, they have to send someone out.
Did she come 3 times?
She come about 3 times.
Okay.
I might be wrong, but that's about 3 times.
Now, on June 28th, Jennifer was working all day. How did she come and pick up the children?
I wouldn't know what days Miss Jennifer work.
Okay.
All I do know that she picked them up on the weekends.
Every weekend?
every weekend.
Okay. And that's what you only documented the visits that something happened on, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you took Layla to the doctor on the 29th, didn't you?
Yes, ma'am.
And you took her to the doctor because you said that Jennifer had brought her back with bruises.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you talked to the doctor and asked about the bruising, correct?
Is it Layla or Millie?
Either girl.
It's Millie.
Did you talk to the doctor and asked about the bruising?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you're sure of that?
It's possible.
It's possible. Is it possible, ma'am, that you did not go to the doctor on June 29th?
Ma'am, one thing about me, I have eyes for details and I do pay attention to details. Any child that's been placed in my home, if they have a scratch on the finger, a scratch on the eyes, on the toes, it is my job to report it, document it. If it calls for a doctor visit, that's what I did.
Okay. So on June 29th, just so that I'm clear, you took Millie to the doctor because of a bruise.
It's a possibility. I could not recall the dates.
Isn't it true that you did in fact go to the doctor, but you never mentioned bruises? Isn't that true?
You're telling me what I know is true or not, or you're asking me a question.
I'm asking you a question. Isn't it true that you took her to the doctor, but you mentioned nothing about bruises?
When I took her to the doctor examined her. If there was a bruise, he would find it.
So if he didn't find a bruise, then what you're saying is not true, correct?
No. If there is a bruise, he would find it.
But if there wasn't a bruise, then what you're saying is not
Well,
correct.
obviously, if there wasn't a bruise, he wouldn't find it. But if
I'm
there
just
is
asking you a
one,
question, ma'am.
I understand. But I'm just letting you know, if there is a bruise, it won't be invisible. He will find it.
And if he didn't find a bruise, then it would mean what you're telling this jury is incorrect.
No. One thing I do not do is lie. I have no reason to.
Actually, you went to the doctor for vaccinations, not for a bruise. Isn't that correct?
So then you know that. So why are you trying to tell me that I go for a bruise?
So you didn't go for a bruise, did you?
Stop trying to trip me up. It will work.
Now, Miss Jennifer, apparently, according to you, told you that Miss Banks did not like the fact that Millie was living with a black person, correct?
Jennifer never mentioned Miss Banks' name
Okay, what did she say?
concerning that. She told, Jennifer is the one that told me that Miss Banks do not like black people.
That's what I just said.
Well,
So she told you that, correct?
yes, Miss Rosenbaum did.
Okay, and then you went to Miss Banks,
Yes, I
and
did.
Miss Banks said she never said anything like that.
Yes, she did.
Now, would it surprise you if Miss Banks had said exactly those sort of things to a caseworker? Would it surprise you?
I would know.
Would it surprise you, though?
Listen, I'm not here to judge Miss Banks on her beliefs.
I'm sorry, but I'm asking the questions. Would it surprise you?
I would just.
Why would it
I think
surprise
She
me?
was not asking a question. She was giving an answer, Judge. I asked if she needed
I was
to
giving an answer.
The questions that's being posed to her.
Okay, well, first, it's difficult for me to rule an objection when you're speaking. So when she starts talking, you have to stop talking.
Okay.
And that's just so that I can understand what's going on, okay? And I don't expect that you would know that, but that's the way it works. Because of the significant overtalk, I'd like you to restate the question.
Would it surprise you that Miss Banks said exactly that sort of thing to another caseworker? And I'm just asking her, would it surprise her?
Your Honor,
This sounds like speculation.
No, I'm
Sounds like
asking,
you're asking her to speculate.
okay, I'll move on.
to be judge of character.
Now, you noticed that Layla would stuff her mouth. She ate a lot, right?
She loved food.
So you actually warned Miss Banks about this, didn't you? You told her that she likes to eat a lot of food and stuffs her mouth. Didn't you say that?
I never use the word stuffed mouth.
Okay.
She loves to eat.
Fine. And you know this because you had Layla with you,
Yes, ma'am?
and she wanted more food. She said, feed me.
No. She said that when she hungry or she needs something to eat, she would just say, Mama, eat, eat. So I know she's hungry.
Okay, so that, what I said was correct, that she makes that sign when she's hungry.
That's not what you said. You said when she's hungry, she wanted more food. That wasn't what she did.
When she's hungry, that means she wants food, correct?
That's what she...
And when she wants food, she makes that gesture.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, do you recall on July 9th, when Samantha White came to visit you, you had the girls, you told Miss White that the girls were improving in their behavior, but Layla still had a temper.
I cannot recall that. Maybe I did. I can't recall.
Isn't it true that you told Miss White that the kids came home with marks on them and that the only explanation you got from Jennifer was that they were playing?
Yes, I did.
And you told Miss White that your concern was lack of supervision.
I sure did.
You thought she didn't have kids and didn't know to keep a close eye on the children.
No, you don't tell me what I thought.
Excuse me, ma'am.
You was telling me that I thought she didn't have kids and keeping a close eye on supervision. My thing is, I'm just saying, from what the kids was coming back to from being in my home was lack of supervision. That's just my belief.
You never suggested abuse, did you?
No.
And you did not like being accused yourself in 2016 when they accused you of putting a black eye on Millie, did you?
That's why I document.
But you didn't like it, did you?
Oh,
And in fact, Millie left your house.
yes, she did.
Your reaction was to tell them that Millie could not live there past the next day.
You're telling me what my reaction was?
I am asking you whether that was your reaction.
No, ma'am. That's up to DFCS. That's not up to me.
Whether you keep a child in your home is up to you or up to DFCS.
It's up to DFCS.
Okay, if you don't want a child in your home, can they force you to keep a child in your home?
No, ma'am.
Now, when you had Millie the second time round, well, both times, when you had Millie and she went to visit with Miss Banks, her behavior changed,
Her behavior did not change.
okay? You did not tell anybody at DFCS that Millie's behavior changed since she began to visit with her mother and great-grandmother.
In having candid conversation, I say she would come back and act grown, what I explained before.
Okay, you didn't say that she was becoming more defiant and told you that her mother said she didn't have to listen to you and that she can have anything she wants.
That I did say.
You did say that.
Yes, ma'am.
You also told her that the mark on Millie's face could have come from the makeup that is applied on her when she goes to visit mom and great-grandma.
It's a possibility. It could have.
And isn't it true you and Mr. Lambert told Miss White that Millie had to leave because Mr. Lambert was afraid he would lose his job if his employer finds out about Millie having a black eye?
No, ma'am.
Now, you had situations where the mother would call you, and the child she would call after the child was asleep. And when the child would wake up, she was too tired to talk to the child, correct?
Which child are you talking about?
Any of her 2 children that you had.
Never happened.
Never happened. You spoke to Tessa and she told you she received pictures as late as the day before Layla died, correct?
When did I speak to Tessa?
I'm just asking you, did you speak to Tessa and did you tell Tessa that as late as the day before she died, Jennifer sent you pictures?
The one and only time I've met Tessa for the very first time was at the funeral home.
And did she tell you at that time that she got a picture of Layla from the day before she died?
She was having conversation, but
Did she
didn't.
tell you that?
She did not talk to me directly. We were standing around with other people. She was having conversation.
So she spoke it into the air when you were around?
Well, not into the air. Just a close group of people were standing there. So
And you
she
were-
just talking.
And you were one of those close people?
Yes, ma'am.
So she did say that as late as the day before she died, she received a picture of Layla?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I didn't know
Can you redirect?
No redirect.
No redirect. Thank you, ma'am. You can step down.
Thank you.
And you are excused unless there's another, for some reason that I'm not aware of.
She may be permanently excused by the state board.
All right. What says the defense?
I would ask that she remain available and that she not be watching the coverage during this time.
Okay, ma'am, you're still under subpoena. You'll be required to, you'll be subject to recall, which means that you have to stay nearby and make sure that people have access to you.
That's fine.
Thank you. And you're still, of course, under the rule of sequestration.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have a nice weekend. Okay, we're going to stop.
Maybe a question?
Sure. All right, I spoke a little prematurely. There's one witness that they have in the hall that we have to go ahead and hear from based upon some scheduling concerns. And so I apologize for that, but it's the right thing to do.
Take a call, Lambert Macedon.
Ma'am, right up here, please.
Can you please raise your right hand and do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth and the whole truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please lower your hand and state your true and correct legal name and spell it, please.
Mietta Macedon, Mietta Macedon.
Good afternoon or good evening, Ms.
Good afternoon.
Macedon. In 2015, where were you employed?
Henry County DFCS.
And what position did you hold with Henry County DFCS?
Foster care case manager.
And are you familiar with Ms. Patricia Lambert?
Yes.
And how are you familiar with Ms. Lambert?
She was a foster parent at the time with the agency.
Did you ever work directly with Ms. Lambert?
Yes.
And can you tell me on what occasions did you have to work with Ms. Lambert?
When I had children placed in her home, I worked directly with her with the children, visiting with the children and so forth.
And when you had children placed with Ms. Lambert's home, tell me about, if you know, Ms. Lambert's process and procedures when she had foster kids.
She was very thorough. consistent, caring. She made sure that the children had what they needed. She made sure that they was well cared for, as if they were her own.
Were you aware of her keeping documentation on the kids that she had?
Absolutely.
Okay. And what did you know about her keeping documentation?
Very consistent, detailed. She kept copies of everything that she submitted to DFCS.
Did you ever, during the time that you worked with Ms. Lambert, ever have any concerns or complaints from her in regards to kids that were in her home?
For any that I oversaw,
Yes.
or no?
Yes. Did you ever, was Ms. Lambert, how would you describe Ms. Lambert as far as her contact with DFCS?
It was very honest, transparent, and consistent.
Was she, if she would, did she contact DFCS on, how often would she contact DFCS?
Regularly.
And when she would make those contacts, what would that be in regards to?
The children placed in her home.
Okay. How would you, I guess, quantify it? Was it a lot of calls? Was it a little calls, average calls? How would you quantify that?
Moderate. It was as needed.
At any point in time, did you, were you involved in the case involving Millie Place and Layla Daniel?
Briefly.
Okay. And tell me about your involvement in that case.
At one point, Mrs. Lambert came to the DFCS office, and I was in the office at the time, and when I walked out of my office into the hallway, I saw her coming down the hall, and she stated that she needed to speak with her case manager or the supervisor at the time.
Did she express why she needed to speak with the case manager or the supervisor?
Yes.
And who was the case manager and the supervisor?
I believe it was Sam as the caseworker and Miss Tamara as the supervisor.
And were they available to your knowledge?
They weren't in the building at the time.
Did she express her concerns to you?
She did.
And what were her concerns?
Her concern was about the children placed in her home. And when they left her for a visit, the children, they didn't have any type of marks or anything. However, when they returned from the visits, there were marks that she observed.
Did she indicate who those visits were? Who the kids were having visits with when they would return with marks?
I can't recall at the time.
Did she, was she alone when she came to the DFCS office to make those, her concerns known?
When I made contact with her on that day, she did have a child with her.
And what did you do in regards to the concerns that Ms. Lambert raised?
I took a picture of the concerning marks or mark on the child, and I spoke with her about what happened and documented it and forwarded that information to the supervisor and the caseworker.
And what information did you have about how that injury occurred?
She couldn't give me any details specifically. She just knew before the child left her, there were no marks. However, when the child came back, there were marks.
Do you recall where the marks were on that child's body?
No, I can't recall exactly.
Show what has already been entered into state's evidence. 120, 119, 120, 121. Do you recognize any of these photographs?
I recognize this one.
And is that state's 119?
Yes.
And is this the mark that you were told about or there was concern about?
Yes.
And is this a photograph that you took?
Yes.
Do you recall taking any other photographs that day?
I believe there was one more.
And would that have been any of states 121 or 120?
Can I see those two again, please? I believe it was this one.
And that states number 121, you recall that photograph?
Yes.
And after you took these photographs, what did you do, if anything?
I spoke with her about the marks, and then I documented the information and forwarded to the supervisor and the case manager on the case at the time.
And that would have been Samantha White and Tamara Warner.
Correct.
Did you have any other follow-up in regards to your conversation with Ms. Lambert and the photographs that you took?
No.
Nothing further at this time.
No questions. All right, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
And you're excused to much respect.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there anything else?
Nothing further from the state.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your work over the course of the week. Have a nice weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning at 9 o'clock. Please remember all math conditions. When we take long breaks like this, there's that temptation to start to talk, and you can't do it. Okay? And so thank you, and we'll see you on Monday. All right. Thank you all. We'll see you on Monday.
Thank you, Judge.